Explicit waits. So explicit waits allow you to wait for a specific condition to be met before proceeding further in your test script. You can use the WebDriver wait class in combination with expected conditions to specify the condition you want to wait for. Common conditions include element visibility, element clickability, element presence, and more. Here's an example of some code, okay? First, we need to create an instance or an object of the WebDriver wait class like this, okay? So WebDriver wait it equals new WebDriver wait, and as an argument, we need to actually pass two arguments. One is the driver, and then is the time that you want to specify for this explicit wait. Okay, so let's go to VS Code real quick and let's see how we are doing this here. So I'm using the practice site now, and by practice site I mean this one right here. Okay, now for the most case, you know that we don't have any wait issues here. Okay, however, I am developing a page where I will have explicit wait scenarios for you, so you guys can come and test. Once that practice site is developed, I'll go ahead and record some videos. But other than that, I'll go ahead and provide the link below in the description once it's done, so you guys can go ahead and use what we're about to discuss with that new practice site. Okay, so here's the thing. I created a class called explicit waits.java, and let me go ahead and just change this because I just copied and pasted the code from the previous class. Okay, so here we are, and again, I'm just instantiating the Chrome browser, maximizing cookies, deleting all cookies, but I left this here because even though we have an implicit wait, there may be moments in our test case where we want to explicitly wait for a certain condition. Okay, so it doesn't mean we have to get rid of the implicit wait. We should still need to leave it here. Okay, so I'm navigating to the practice site, and then I went ahead and located this bootstrap dropdown right here. Okay, just for this example. Now it does display there's no wait issues, at least for most of us, so we're okay. Now you see how it's formatted in 2 lines. By the way, I just want to make this quick note. That's because the statement is pretty long. Okay, so let me go ahead and put it together like this. But just know when you format your code, because the statement is really long, VS Code just tries to format it in 2 lines like this, but it doesn't mean it's 2 separate lines. It's still the same statement. Okay, so step 1 is to create an object of the WebDriver wait class. Okay, so here we've created an object, but we need 2 arguments. 1 is the driver, and then 2, the duration of the time we want to explicitly wait for the certain condition. Okay, then using the object reference variable, I'm saying wait.until, and as an argument here, we need to pass the expected condition we want to wait for. So I'm using the class called expected conditions, okay, and one of the methods inside this class. So this is being called in a static way. Okay, so this visibility of method is one of the static methods from the expected conditions class. Okay, notice the static reference here. So what I'm doing is expected conditions dot visibility of this bootstrap dropdown. Okay, so this is an example if you wanted to wait for the visibility of an element. This is how you would write this code. So if you want to wait for the visibility of a certain element, you'll just go ahead and write a condition like this, and then you can go ahead and interact with that element. Okay, moving on to the next example, waiting for the clickability of an element. So those are 2 different things. Just know that verify or waiting for the visibility of an element is not the same thing as waiting for an element to be clickable. Okay, in most cases, if you need to click on an element, it's best that you use the element to be clickable method. So again, I'm using the object reference variable, okay, and I'm saying until, and as an argument, we're using the expected conditions class and using a static method called element to be clickable. And here you need to pass the web element as an argument, okay, in the with these methods here, and then you can interact with that element. Now here I'm going to show you some other methods you guys can use. Okay, so I'll use the object reference variable called wait dot until, and in here I'll say expected conditions, and if I here, type in dot, you can see the different methods that we have. Okay, so go ahead and take a look at these. You could possibly use these one day. For example, you want to wait for the alert, for an alert to be present, for a certain attribute to contain a certain attribute value. Let's see what else. For the DOM property to be, for element selection state to be, for, let's see, here, element to be selected if you're working with multi-select dropdowns, for the frame to be available and switch to it, and also for the invisibility of elements as well. Okay, sometimes you may have some scenarios where you need to make sure that a certain element is not displayed anymore or is not visible anymore. So this is where you would use these methods. Okay, so there's so much you can do with these explicit weights. Okay, you have a lot of options. Okay, now again, once this practice site is up and ready with the explicit weight scenarios, we'll go ahead and share it. I'll record some videos and you guys can go ahead and practice. Okay, one thing though, while it sounds all nice and all, you notice that the duration of the explicit wait is significantly higher than the implicitly wait time here. And that's because that's how it should be used. Here we are explicitly waiting. Okay, explicitly waiting for a certain condition, for a certain element. Okay, that's what we are waiting for. We don't necessarily want to do this with our entire script, so that's why we're not specifying here 35 seconds. Okay, so keep that in mind. This is what you would want to use, again, instead of a hard sleep. Okay, now there's one thing though you guys need to understand about weights. While these weights sound nice and convenient, in a lot of cases, they can be very unreliable. Okay, it's just because of how Selenium works, or the architecture of Selenium, which we'll talk in the later videos. However, that doesn't mean you should not use it. You should definitely always try to use the Selenium weights first before using some sort of hard sleep. Okay, so keep that in mind. So go ahead and write this code out. Go ahead and play around with the practice side. As long as you know that the WebDriver wait object needs to be created, the arguments that need to be passed, and so on, and then just wait for the practice side, you should be good to go.